So, no, but like, I'm not here to sell books, that's for sure. Somebody said, "Are you on a book tour?" And I'm definitely not on a book tour. Obviously, I support the book and all that, but to be honest, if they sold 10 books, I would have been happy. It doesn't matter how many books they sell. There's actually a guy, Bob, where's Bob? There's Bob, he works for Random House, which they actually produced the book, so.
Speak here.
I guess.
Let me give her promoting you.
Ask Bob Nelson, I'm not here.
Later about
So, but yeah, it's nice to be here and keep, I don't know, you might want to just plug your ears.
No, I'm fine.
You can listen. I think you can handle it. Okay. Yeah. I don't even know how I'm going to start, but I think I think we have pretty much a cycling friendly group here, and as a lot of you guys know, cycling is a super hard sport. I think a race like the Tour de France is arguably, in my opinion, for sure, but I think it's fair to say arguably the hardest sporting event in the world. It's 3 weeks long. It's on average around 2,500 miles. Some crazy amount of climbing involved in every Tour de France. I did the Tour de France, I believe it was 8 times, and yeah, the first time was in 1997, and the last time was in 2004. And every year I did it, it was the hardest race I ever did. 97 being the first one. And yeah, unfortunately, that there were because it's the hardest race in the world, hardest sporting event in the world, in my opinion. There's a layer. It's like an onion, and there's a layer underneath the second layer, or third layer in the onion that not all you guys see. That I lived with, that I saw, I breathed it, I smelled it. I lived with it for a long time, and that's the sort of the underworld that nobody could see or very few knew about. And so I'll talk about that for the next 20 minutes or so. And I assume a lot of the questions will be about that, but if you want to talk about some racing and all that and tactics, that's no problem too. All right. And then afterwards, I'll be here for as long as you guys are here. So if I didn't get to your question, just come up and ask me. And there's no tough question anymore. So I'm now all about the truth. No, really. I mean, I'm all about the truth now. I can't lie. Once in a while I try to tell a small white lie, but I can't. So it's good. What's that movie called? Liar, Liar. Can anybody seen that? It's good and bad, but for the most part, it's a good thing. It is a good thing. It's a great thing. I'll just tell my story a little bit. And I was a downhill ski racer for most of my young life, up through college. I excelled at this sport I kept taking baby steps up and improving up through high school. Went away to college. Grew up in Boston. Went to a private school up in New Hampshire for high school where I could ski every day in the wintertime. A school called Holderness. It wasn't a ski academy or anything like that, but it was a school that you could get a good education, but also have a good chance at excelling in ski racing. From there, I went on to the University of Colorado, which had one of the best ski programs in the nation. Joined the ski team my freshman year. Kept taking baby steps up. Sophomore year, late September, early October, training with the ski team. We basically started dryland training as soon as school, a week before school started. That means, riding your bicycle, your road bike, your mountain bike, a lot of running, a lot of explosive plyometric type activities. But there's one day of training, most days you would find out, a couple hours before what you were going to be doing for training. that day we were going to be doing mountain biking. So I thought, okay, whatever. Got out my yellow mountain bike. I don't even remember what kind it was, but it was a clunker. And they had us doing these intervals on this cyclocross track in the middle of Boulder, Colorado. And it was right really close to the ski team building. And I remember they were saying, okay, we're gonna, basically more or less it was a race. That's and a bunch of ski racers racing against each other. You know, all being super competitive. It was a race. Sure enough, there I was in the lead, on a yellow mountain bike, cruising along. It was a hand-me-down from my older brother. And I remember all of a sudden coming around the corner and there was this huge jump. It was like the first lap of the race. And before I knew it, I was like in the air going the wrong direction. Which was, it was totally slow motion. It was like, and just, I landed once on my front wheel, like fully, and I knew it was gonna get worse than that. Sure enough, I landed on straight on my head. I tried to brake it with my hands, but I think I was going fast enough that I couldn't even, these didn't work. And I landed right on my head, like a hammer to a nail, and broke 2 vertebrae in my upper back. And so that was like late September, early October. By the time I got out of bed, they said you can't ski race this winter, and so I had to basically wait more or less a whole calendar year. And during that time, when after I got out of bed, I talked to the doctor and I said, "What can I do that's not going to hurt my back?" And he said, "You can ride a road bike." And I thought, "Oh, that's cool," because I've done some riding before, and as a ski racer, you always rode your bike a little bit in the summertime. And so I'm like, "Oh, great." And little did I know, Boulder, Colorado was the cycling capital, at least in terms of on the racing side of it, the cycling capital of the U.S. And so before I knew it, I'm out there riding, and I'm meeting, I didn't just ride, I rode every day, day after day after day, and I was meeting up with people out on the road. And after a while, you end up seeing the same people and figuring out, okay, these guys are out here a lot, they're pretty serious about it. And I ended up riding with top amateur cyclists, even professionals, and I quickly learned I was pretty good at cycling. At least I had a good engine, not necessarily the bike handling skills, but I had a good engine. And all of a sudden, the guy in the CU, the University of Colorado cycling team, I bumped into him one day, and he's like, "Why don't you join the CU cycling team?" I said, "Oh, I didn't think I was good enough, but sure, I'll join. Why not?" And so I joined the cycling. It was called a cycling club, actually, because it was a club sport back then. That's how it started, and then started doing some racing with the University of Colorado Cycling Club. I started in the Bs, this sort of second tier in the Bs, and I think my first race I lapped the field a couple times. Then I became collegiate national champion. Before I knew it, it was back in Boston, which was pretty cool, in front of my family. And then it took off. Before I knew it, from that moment on, I joined the U.S. National team as an amateur. Traveled all around the world. Had to skip my last half year of college, and I thought, okay, this is just for a fleeting moment, and I'll be back in school and finish school before I know it. Before I knew it, I was professional in 1995. So 1 year is at the U.S. national team level, professional in the following year. So it happened like that. I was super green being a professional, and I just thought, okay, this is cool, but it's going to end tomorrow, so I'll just enjoy it while it lasts. Fast forward 2 years, and I was on a team. It was the first team, professional team I was on in 1995 was called Montgomery Bell. It was the initial U.S. Postal Service cycling team. It was the same management, it was just a different title sponsor. And so I started basically on the U.S. Postal team in 1995. The first 2 years, we primarily raced stateside, and we took trips to Europe. We took trips to Europe for anywhere from 2 weeks to up to 5 weeks at a time. My second year on the team, I remember traveling over there, and this is all, you know, I was still greener than green and cleaner than clean. That's the first time I ever said that. That sounds pretty good.
A little bit.
But I was, and I won a relatively big race in Europe at that time. It was a stage race. At the time, it was called the Teleflex Tour. It was based in Holland. That race still exists today. They changed the name, so I'm not sure the new name of it, but it still happens. It's still out there today. It's kind of a sort of category B race, or basically it's almost like a AAA race. And AAA sort of, if you were in terms of baseball, you know, AAA versus the big leagues. So I won like a AAA race basically. So clean. I'm bread in the water, so to speak. The next year, however, things changed drastically. In the off season from 1996 to 1997, all of a sudden, you know, I heard rumblings about the team deciding to take a big step up to going to Europe full time, as they said. I gotta stand up. I'm sorry. I like it better. Going to Europe full time. So yeah, you know, to me, I was excited. What a great opportunity, and they wanted to be there as well. So I thought, wow, this is great. Like going to Europe, and I knew, you know, going to Europe was Europe was the big leagues of cycling, the major leagues of professional cycling. So I thought, wow, what a great opportunity. In that off season between 1996 and 1997, a lot changed within the team. All this, it was like the director changed, everything on the team changed. Riders changed. All of a sudden, we had guys like Vyacheslav Ekimov, Olympic champion. You know, I can't even name all his results. I mean, just a huge champion, a guy who I remember watching, you know, years before I even became a bike racer. Watching live at a race called the Tour du Dupont, or no, sorry, the Tour du Trump. Before that, you guys, the older guys here can remember. Thanks, Tom. And I remember, and I actually got his autograph. This is kind of embarrassing. Other guys like Adriano Baffi, an Italian rider, sprinter. Let's see. Jean-Cyril Robin, Frenchman, Pascal Durame, just a bunch of new guys on the team, a bunch of European riders. Before, in 95, 96, we were primarily an American team, American riders. So all of a sudden, it's got this international flair. All of a sudden, we have a Danish director by the name of Johnny Weltz. He used to race for Once, a Spanish team. Our soigneurs or massage therapists were international, mechanics the same. All of a sudden it became an American team, or an American sponsor, but you know, an international team. And it was a big change. And all of a sudden I had to go move to Europe in February, or late January, like move there for 9 months. And leave home, which was Colorado at the time. And move over there. I had a dog named Tugboat, and he had to go back to my parents' house in Marblehead, Mass, just north of Boston, and live with him because this was a whole new beast for me. I got to fast forward or I'm going to be talking all night. So real quick, I believe it was come March that year. I just finished a couple hard stage races in Spain. We're getting ready for another one-day race in a few days. We just finished like a 5-day stage race. I'm there in my hotel room, fully like spread eagle style on my bed, like just exhausted. And I get a knock on the door, and it's the team doctor. His name is Pedro Celaya, Spanish guy. And he comes in, he's in this little fly fishing vest, you know what those look like? Like there's like a tan pocket, there's like a gazillion pockets. And Pedro's a great guy, like fantastic guy. He was a fatherly like figure to me. He cared about me as a person before he cared about me as a cyclist. And in a way, it's almost, I feel like he was kind of regret, in a way, he almost didn't want that day to happen, but he knew it had to happen eventually, because there was pressure from, it wasn't just Pedro pushing. It was, the pressure was from above. Basically, Pedro came in and said, "How are you feeling?" Obviously, I was exhausted. I was surviving these races. I was in these races, but I wasn't necessarily competing. I was just a number. I was hanging on for dear life. And he came in, push came to shove. I was exhausted, and he said, he reached in, I always remember this, his top left pocket, he reached in, he said, pulled out this little red egg. The red egg had testosterone in it. I think it was called andriol. And he said, "This is a small amount of testosterone." It is. He told me, he was true. He was fully, he kept me, he didn't lie. He said, "This is testosterone. It is an illegal substance. However, it'll be out of your system in 24 hours, more or less. You have a race in 2 days. If you get tested in 2 days' time, you'll be fine." What hit me was, this is not doping. This is for your health. Because eventually you're racing against other guys who are, on the sauce, on the secret sauce. And if you continue to race against these guys, your body's going to get so worn down that it's unhealthy. And I bought into it, and I knew that question was probably coming. And in a strange way, I think I was even waiting for it and kind of hoping for it, because in a strange way, it was almost like I'd done part of that season, in the '97 season, on the B team, and I knew I was on the B team because I knew other guys were. I could tell other guys had like special treatment, and all of a sudden it was like, why aren't I on the A team? And that was my introduction to the A team, and this was a couple months away from. Riding in our first Tour de France. At that time, we still didn't even know if we were going to be in the Tour de France, because we had to be selected as a wild card entry. So we basically had to get the results to get into the race. So yeah, the answer was quick. I didn't think about it for too long. I swallowed that pill, testosterone. The good thing about testosterone is like it's this little pill. It was in my stomach before I knew it. I didn't see anything. There was no hole in my arm because of it. But, that small testosterone pill was like that finally broke the ice. And now, before I knew it, I was a month or so later, I was introduced to EPO. Does everybody know what EPO is?
Yeah.
Or who doesn't? Yeah, basically, it boosts your red blood cell count. The more red blood cells you have, more oxygen you can get to the muscles. How are you? Welcome. That led, basically, the testosterone pill was like a little bit of mud on my sneakers, and next thing I know, like it happened like that. I'm up to my neck in mud, and barely keeping my mouth above the mud. That led to EPO use, which eventually led to cortisone abuse. Cortisone was illegal. However, if you had a doctor's prescription for it, a team doctor's prescription for it, for an injury or some sort of illness, you could use it. So obviously all the team doctors were in the know that it was a useful substance. So we used it all the time, in terms of at the Tour de France. You wouldn't abuse it all year long, but you would, typically guys would use it in the biggest race of the year for them. If you're a plastics specialist, you use it for Tour of Flanders and Paris-Roubaix. If you're a stage race specialist, like I think I was a stage race specialist, I'd use it in the Tour de France. You know, we all, I mean, Lance Armstrong used it in the Tour de France, other guys. And every year was a different injury, you know, it was tendonitis on my right knee, tendonitis on my left knee. So if you had an excuse, an injury, you'd write it in your little book that you have to present the anti-doping control officers. And yeah, it was pretty easy.